So thank you, Teresa, for sharing that wonderfully useful information. Um, Thinking about ways that a congregation, um, how can we minister more effectively to those who are hearing impaired in a congregation? What are some things that are useful?
I think the first thing to do is to be able to recognize that people do have a hearing loss. And so I think if you find somebody who's not really connecting and say maybe the community groups, then you might want to question whether that person might have a hearing loss. And then you might want to have March the 3rd is International Hearing Day. So
Oh,
it's something that you can have an event during that time for both conservation of hearing and also for people who have some degree of hearing loss, because it's important to keep your hearing at optimal level. So even if you have a hearing loss, you still want to keep as much of it as you've got.
mm-hmm.
So you'll find the people that do have a hearing loss will often be the ones who are more proactive on wearing different devices, like the earros and the vibes and the eargasmic, to block out that noise and to let in the sound. And then you'll find, because they know what it's like to have hearing loss. And so it's the kind of thing that with congregations, I think it's important for them to have a ministry. And I even, as I sat there yesterday, I thought, well, Teresa, do you want to start a support group, for that particular venue? Because my particular church has said they have hearing listening devices and they think that they are being compliant by that means. That's not
Mm-hmm.
the case at all. But I've chosen to be proactive with all of this because I've known about the laws for the last 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I want for congregations and for businesses in general to be proactive this time rather than reactive like they had to do with the wheelchair issue.
So if they're going to be proactive and abide, not only abide by the laws, what would that look like? What are some very specific things? Yes, have the Eros and the Vibe perhaps available and make sure people know about that. But what else would they be good for a congregation to do?
Well, to begin with, people need to be proactive themselves. So I don't expect for congregations to provide those kind of ear devices for people. People need to bring them in themselves. So that's something you need to decide if you want to save your hearing or if you don't. Okay. But I can tell you, hearing loss is not fun. I mean, you can make it fun, and I'm the kind of person I take the advantage of that.
Mhm.
But what any sort of public venue needs to have is they need to have even Bluetooth Bluetooth availability, which is called looping, so
Mhm.
that who do wear our hearing aids or have a cochlear implant can instantly plug in to whatever the service is. So we were discussing earlier your mother's retirement center in the chapel. Okay. The pastor can talk as soft as he wants to talk, as long as they have a microphone and it's connected to the Bluetooth, and your mother wears her hearing aid that has a Bluetooth device in it. So
Mhm.
problem solved right there. Um, and then for the people who only have a mild hearing loss, which is a whisper, which is 0.25 decibels, then that's a group that I feel that it would be nice to have the captioning services up on the screen or up on the wall or even on their mobile phone. So the person, the leadership, would simply wear different devices, but the one I use when I give keynote speaking is I use what's called a plantronic device, 5002.
Mhm.
It connects to my phone, and then those people that have the Ava app can instantly read what I've said, which is sometimes to my advantage and sometimes to my disadvantage, but I want to be ADA compliant for them. So
Mhm.
that's another thing that they can do. And then I feel that it would be good, like we had non-smoking rooms and smoking rooms, and now most restaurants are non-smoking. I feel that it would be good to have an area that those people who choose to have it a little quieter, like the 72 decibels, can sit in that seating, and those people who have hearing loss can equally so sit in the second or third row back in the aisle so that we can lip read. That's the main reason.
Yeah, and it's important that you said the aisles so that they can really see well enough to be able to.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, in my church, we have a stage platform, so that's what we have.
yeah.
And so if the person or persons are moving back and forth, then if I'm sitting third or fourth row back, or even second row back, I can see them. If I'm sitting first row, I'm looking at their feet, so I can't see them. So everybody needs to kind of, the ministry needs to look at, okay, let me role play and see whether I can read the person's lips from third or fourth row back, depending on how their particular seating is set up.
Mhm, mhm. Or in a traditional Christian church, if they have a pulpit, where can
Right,
you sit and see the person in the pulpit? Or if they don't use the
right.
pulpit and they're walking up and down the aisle, someplace or across the front, can people see to be able to lip read at that point?
Yeah.
So,
It's like in the Episcopal Church and the Catholic Church, it's traditionally on the left that the pulpit is. So you'd want to sit on the right side, second or third row back, so that you can see that person. And then as they're giving communion, you're right in the center, in the
mhm,
Catholic Church. So if you're sitting still on the right side in the right side on the aisle, facing
the
the
front.
pastor or the priest or whatever, or the rabbi, then then you're right. Then you're easily able to read the lips of that person. Yeah.
Right, right. And I think about there are some very traditional congregations where there's a time where the pastor's back is to the people and talking. And that's going to be very difficult for people then because you won't be able to read lips during that time. So it's all something to be thought through and to consider. Um, Not only the traditions, but the visual and the being
Right.
able to be inclusive of those who are hearing impaired and being able to read your lips as well. And even putting out information, like I did not know about the vibes and the eros and those kinds of things until you mentioned them. So, for faith leaders, faith communities to become educated about this, and even if they don't provide that for the members, to at least provide the information as
Right.
to these are, how to get them, the point of getting them, and things like that. Um,
Well, I'm getting ready to do a YouTube channel,
mm,
and that YouTube channel will also be shared on Facebook for free. On Here Communication. So right there, I have a Facebook page called Here Communication. And then I'm getting ready to do a podcast called Sound Advice, a hearing friendly business podcast, which anyone can listen to. And then therefore they can hear that word. And then my particular podcast will have transcriptions underneath in case you missed what I said.
ah,
Or in case my enunciation was not clear, because
mhm,
somebody with hearing loss since birth, and also other people, it depends on your level of hearing loss. But if you look at an audiogram, then it's called speech banana. And so you're missing your consonants and your vowels.
mhm,
So the Mayday gay they way.
mhm,
Did that millennial say they or gay or jay? What
mhm,
exactly did they say?
mhm,
And for that traditional service where they have their back to you or to the congregation or whatever denomination it is, they can wear that plantronic device
mhm,
because at UCSD, which I'm a graduate of, and they're also Dr. Carol Padden is one who created the capital D for deaf. We are now starting to implement the AVA app in classroom situations. So
Oh,
the same applies. Yeah.
yeah,
So the same applies.
right.
Because when people talk, sometimes they need to write on the board. So,
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
and it's a lot less expensive than using note takers.
Yeah.
Not that I want those people to lose their jobs, but
Right.
still, it gives access to everyone. That person who even couldn't afford a hearing aid, or a person who's too ashamed to wear a hearing aid because they still think that it's a horrible thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also have a book that's available on your website. I believe it's called Sound Advice.
Tune into listening,
To,
because we want all God's people to listen to whatever the message is,
right.
so that we can have a more peaceful world and a kinder world and a nicer world. I
Right.
mean, and nutritionally, there is a snack bar called Kind, KIND,
Hmm.
and it has banana and it has dark chocolate. So, banana has all three of the basic minerals which you should be eating: magnesium, potassium, and folate. And then the dark chocolate also is something that helps coat your cochlear hair cells with zinc. So in case you're blasted out with that loud noise, because I met people who were in their 80s and their hearing is fine and they've been in noisy environments their whole lives. So you have to look at that. Well, why is that? So is it because their cochlear hair cells, just like you exercise your body, this
Hmm.
is another way to exercise your well, to protect your ears just naturally by the different foods you eat.
And that's also something that faith communities can share with people. Uh,
Right.
the healthy diet and the things that can not only noise, but the other things that can cause or contribute to hearing loss,
Right.
and how to minimize that. And diet is part of that, which I never really thought about. Thankfully, I love dark chocolate,
Oh,
and
good.
the darker the chocolate, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, right.
Yeah. So, that's if I'm going to eat chocolate, it's got to be dark chocolate. But those are all really important things to think about as to ways that a congregation can be an advocate for
Right.
healthy hearing for everybody, but also for those who have hearing loss. And, to provide the information and the services when possible for people who have some sort of hearing impairment. And the reality is that based on the amount of noise in our world these days, and that we create and think is fun and good and everything else, that um, the number of those with hearing loss in their 30s and 40s and even 20s is probably increasing. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Yes, there is a World Health Organization that says by 2050, we will have 90 billion people globally that have hearing loss, except if we do something to increase its awareness. Now, we had statistically 2.2 million Middle Eastern vets or veterans that are all under 30 years old, usually, that
Mhm.
came back with hearing loss. That is the same number as the amount of people who are in wheelchairs, canes, and walkers. Uh, and I would like for all businesses to be proactive rather than reactive, and because a lot of people, unfortunately, because some people use that law, um, ended up going out of business due to that. So we don't want to repeat that. In fact, we even made a clause in that where people, if it's really a financial hardship, that they don't have to necessarily comply. So, but it is the kind of thing that listening improves your job performance. It improves your connection with human beings, your community. Listening helps you hear the ministry or the word. And listening is using those two ears that we got And unfortunately, unfortunately, one of the traits of someone who has hearing loss is they will often talk more than they listen, because it's easier to talk than to use the broken ear organ. And I had someone tell me one time that it was a gift that God gave me to have hearing loss. And I now have adopted that, because as far as society goes, it hasn't totally been to my advantage. But I have been able to see life from a different perspective
Mm.
and from a different venue. And so, since I've had it, since I'm not deaf, and I'm the in between person who doesn't hear well, but I'm not deaf. So therefore, I can bridge these two communities together, because I understand both of them pretty well.
Mm.
Because my own aunt is deaf and has been deaf since birth. So mine might be a genetic problem. It might be the 21 gun salute, since my dad was in the Navy, or
Mm.
it might be the malnutrition, since we all know the veterans these days, and even back then, the Navy, the different people in the armed forces don't always have enough money. In fact, they even get food stamps sometimes because they don't have enough money. So it's something that we want to keep people hearing, or keep your hearing as long as you can. So that's something that I think that the May is Better Hearing and Speech Month in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I forgot what day October is basically tagged up with Deaf Awareness Day. And the deaf, because their laws are back in 1969, they have a lot of different days. We are going to start July the 8th is Heary Day from Paul Revere. So
Ah,
we're going to have July the Hearing Friendly Business Month, so that we can nationally. So therefore, we can get that word out there.
that's wonderful. So let us know how people can be in touch with you to find out more,
Okay.
and so that they can do things within their congregations, their community, and in their businesses.
Okay. Well, right behind me, you see Hear Communication. And I have a toll-free number, which is 800-491-9483. And also, you can reach me by email, of course, contact at hear, Hear, so the hearing, the letter C.com. So hearc.com.
Okay, thank you very much, Teresa. It's been great having you on and helping people get more aware about hearing loss and the ways that faith communities can be advocates for and help people with hearing loss. So until next time, for everybody who's watching, oh, please come back again next time for one, but also find 3 things for which you are grateful every single day. And one way each day where you can show a little bit of God's love to someone else. So God's blessings. This is AFlame Ministry, and take care.